In this video, I'll show you how to play the Gran Turismo games on PC. That is the main games from Gran Turismo 1 through 6 and the PSP game. For that, we're gonna be using the best emulators for each console: DuckStation, PCSX2, PPSS-PP, and RPCS3. This is the ultimate guide for playing your favorite Gran Turismo games on PC. Let's start with the PlayStation 1 games. The emulator we're gonna be using is DuckStation. This is one of the best PS1 emulators for a PC. I'll put the link of the website on the description of the video, and right here on the main page, you're gonna click here on Windows. This will work for both Windows 10 and 11, and DuckStation requires VC++ in order for it to work. And if you don't know if you already have that installed on your PC, DuckStation will tell you that when you try to run it. If that's the case, you're gonna click here on Download VC++, get the software installed, and then proceed with the installation here. The DuckStation file will come as a zipped file, so you're gonna have to extract this one. You can use either WinRAR or 7-zip. I would personally recommend using 7-zip. I'll put the link of that on the description of the video. And right here, you're gonna click on the file with the right button. Select 7-zip or WinRAR, depending on what you have, and you can select either extract here or extract to DuckStation. If you click on extract here, all the files are gonna show up right here, but if you click on extract to DuckStation, then the files will come inside a folder. So that's gonna be up to you. In my case, since they are already here, I'm just gonna click on extract, and then you're gonna have the necessary files here. You can go ahead and delete the original zip file. We're not gonna need this anymore. And before we start with the installation, first, I want you to create a new file here on this folder. So you're gonna click anywhere on this folder with the right button, and then you're gonna select New, and select Text Document. And the name of this file has to be Portable, exactly like this. Now press Enter. We're doing this because when we run the installation, all the necessary folders and files are going to be installed here on the same folder. Otherwise, they would go to the Documents folder, which can be a little confusing. So now we can proceed with the installation. So double click here on DuckStation QT-X64, like this, and now you're gonna see that all of these files have showed up, right? Now, on the setup wizard, the first option is to select the language and the theme of this emulator, and this is available in multiple languages right here. I'm just gonna keep mine on English, and you can also change the theme as well here. If you click on each one, it's gonna show you how they look like here. In my case, I'm just gonna keep mine on Dark Fusion Gray, and also you can enable automatic updates as well. So every time you boot the emulator, it's gonna check if there's a new version available. I'm just gonna keep mine enabled here. Now click on Next. Here we have to select the BIOS folder, and this file is needed in order for this emulator to work. And this BIOS is copyright protected. They even say here that for legal reasons, you must obtain a BIOS from an actual PS1 unit that you own. And the default location of the folder of this BIOS file is right here, this BIOS folder that was already created by the emulator. So this is where I'm gonna be dropping my BIOS file. It's gonna look very similar to this file right here, this .bin file. This is one of the BIOS files that you can find out there. There are multiple, and all of them pretty much work all the same here on this emulator. But when you drop that on the folder, you're gonna click here on NTSC Japan. This BIOS file that I have is Japanese, so when I click here, it's going to list this file. But if the one that you got is either from US or European, if you just click here, they're gonna show up as such. And when you have that selected, we are good to go now. So click on Next. Now we're gonna select the folder where you want the emulator to scan for games. This can be anywhere on your PC, and they list here the available formats for this emulator. And if you still own your PS1 games, you can also put them on your CD drive of your computer, and they will work on the emulator as well. You don't necessarily need to dump your copy into these formats on your PC. In my case, what I like to do here is create a new folder on the emulator here called Games. And this is where I'm gonna be dropping my games files here. So just click on Add. It should open the emulator folder by default. So now I'm just gonna select the games folder, click on Select Folder. And when you do that, it's gonna ask you if you want the emulator to scan for this folder recursively. This means that if you have a folder inside the games folder, the emulator will find the games inside there as well. For example, inside the games folder, if I were to create a new folder called, let's say, Japanese games. And if I were to put games in here, the emulator would also find them. So I'm just gonna click here on yes and do that. And you can also add multiple folders too. It does not have to be a single one, so it can be in many locations on your PC. When you're done, click on next. And now we have to configure the controllers, and this emulator has a automatic mapping function. This means that if you have your controller plugged in and you click here, the emulator will do the configuration of that controller for the emulator automatically. So if you don't have yours connected, go ahead and do that right now. And you can select the controller type right here. There are many that you can select from. I'm just gonna keep mine on analog controller. Now you're gonna click here on automatic mapping, and the emulator will find all the devices that are available to work on this emulator. In my case, I'm using a Xbox controller here, so I'm gonna select STL0, and just like that, it's ready to go here. You can also use your keyboard or mouse as well. They also work for this, and you can do the same for a controller port too if you have that as well. There is a more detailed configuration for the controllers inside the emulator. I'm gonna show you that. So now, click here on next, and we finish the setup of the emulator. Go ahead and click on finish, and the emulator is gonna show up like this. This would be a good time to subscribe to the channel and also leave a like on this video. The controller setup that I talked about is right here on settings, and then click here on controllers, and then you can select either controller port 1 or 2 if you have that enabled. If you have your PS1 game disc, you just have to insert it on your PC, and then click here on system and then start disk. With this finished, we're gonna add the games now, and I want you to go back to the DuckStation folder where you drop the files, right? And here on that games folder that we created before, this is where we're gonna be dropping the game files. One of the best and most common formats of PS1 games on PC is this one here, the .bin. This is the one that has the actual game files, and it's usually accompanied by this .q as well. It's basically a file with a bunch of information about the game that the emulator can read, and it can display the game correctly on the emulator UI. So I have here with me Gran Turismo 1 and the 2 discs of Gran Turismo 2, the arcade mode and the simulation mode. So with these files in place, you're gonna go back to the emulator, and if you had it open while dropping the game files, you just have to click here on scan for new games, and just like that, all the games will appear here. If you shut down the emulator and reopen, it also works as well. The emulator will detect it if the games are in the correct folder. Now we're gonna configure the emulator for the best settings for each game, and the settings are pretty much the same, so we only have to do this one time here on the emulator. So you're gonna click here on settings. First, you're gonna click here on BIOS. This window will show up, and right here on the BIOS tab, you have the option to enable the fast boot on this emulator. This will skip the PlayStation screen and go straight into the game. So this is a good one to have if you want to jump straight into the menu. And there is no harm in activating this option. It's not going to introduce bugs or anything like that. It's safe to use, right? Now let's go to the console tab right here. And under CPU emulation, you're gonna click here on enable clock speed control. You should see a warning here telling that this option may be dangerous or anything, but go ahead and click on OK. And right here on this slider, you're gonna increase this one all the way to something around 280%. This is gonna overclock the CPU of the emulator, not your actual CPU of your PC. And this is required for the next option here on the bottom, CD-ROM emulation. You're gonna change here the read speed up to 10x and the seek speed up to infinite instantaneous. These options here will drastically reduce the loading times of both games. But in order for them to work properly, we have to overclock the emulator's CPU. And the loading times are gonna be really fast now. Now let's go here to the graphics tab. And right here on renderer, if it's available for you, go ahead and select Vulkan right here. This is the best one for emulation, but if your GPU is outdated and Vulkan doesn't show up, you're gonna select either Direct3D 11 or 12. They are pretty good as well, but I think Vulkan is the absolute best one right here. And on the bottom where it says adapter, you're gonna select your video card that you normally use for games in case you have a dual GPU setup. On the bottom here where it says rendering, we can increase the internal resolution of the game. By doing so, it will make your game look much better, but it's gonna demand more of your PC. So you can start by increasing this to 2x the resolution and just keep increasing this one until your computer can handle, of course, and until you're satisfied with how the image is looking. Now here on aspect ratio, you're going to change this one to 16:9. The original game works in the 4:3 aspect ratio, right? But this emulator has a widescreen patch right here that is going to unlock the screen ratio so that it can be played on actual 16:9. And you do that by simply clicking here on this option, widescreen rendering. And it's usually pretty good right here. You're gonna see a few bugs with the texture not popping in correctly and all, but most of the time it looks pretty good with this one enabled. Also enable this one here, the PGXP geometry correction, and keep both options here enabled like it was before. And with that, we're pretty much done here. There's also a post-processing option here that you can introduce some filters. And there's a good one here to add. I would personally recommend using CRT Lotus. This will, like the name say, introduce a CRT effect into the game. And if you are going to use this one, I would also recommend going here to graphics and enable the downsampling option here to box. And you can increase this one to 1x or 2x, because by doing so, the game will look very similar as if you were playing on a CRT television. So you can play with that a little bit. And we are done here, so go ahead and click on close. DuckStation also has built-in cheats and they are very easy to activate. First, you have to start your game. I'm gonna go with Gran Turismo 2 here, double click the game, and as soon as it starts, you're gonna click here on System, then select Cheats here. It's going to ask if you want to enable for the game or all games. I'm gonna choose for this game only here, and then you're gonna click on System again, click on Cheats one more time. But now you're gonna click on Cheat Manager here. And just like that, it will list the cheats available for this game. And there are many cheats for Gran Turismo 2 here. I'm just gonna point out that cheats like 60 FPS here, you will also need to increase the CPU overclock a little bit more in order for it to work properly. I know that in Gran Turismo 2 specifically, a good percentage here to get 60 FPS is something around 280%, at least on my PC here. That's when the frame rate gets really stable with this cheat enabled. And it's also a good idea as well that after you activate the cheats, you restart the game here, just so that they are loaded up correctly in game. That's it for the PS1 Gran Turismo games. Now let's move over to the PlayStation 2. First step is grabbing the emulator itself. It's available here on the website. I'll put the link on the description of the video. And right here on the main page, you want to click here on Latest Nightly. The nightly version will have all the latest fixes and improvements. This guide is for Windows PC, so you're going to click here on Download and grab the latest version available. It will come as a zipped file, so you're gonna need either WinRAR or 7-zip to extract it. I would personally recommend you using 7-zip, link will be on the description. And right here on the file, click on it with the right button, select either 7-zip or WinRAR, depending on what you have, and then click on extract here. It will generate all of these files right here. You can go ahead and delete the original zip file. You're not gonna need this anymore. And this emulator is still generating all the important files on the documents of your PC, which can be a little confusing, but there is a way that we can make them appear in here. First off, you want to make sure that you have file name extensions enabled, and you can do that by clicking here on View, and then click here, File Name Extensions, so we can see the actual file type of each one of them. Now you're gonna click anywhere on the folder with the right button. Select here New, and then click on Text Document. And this file, you're gonna erase everything from here. And this is gonna be called portable.ini. Exactly like this. Now press Enter. You see this window, click on Yes. Now, when we start the actual installation here, all the files are gonna be in place. So double click on this qt.exe file. This window will show up, and then all the files here. On the setup wizard, you have the option to change the language of the emulator. There are several here available, and you can also change the theme as well. If you select each one of them, you'll see a preview of what they look like. I'm just gonna keep mine on Dark Fusion Gray. Now click on Next. And here you can select the folder where the emulator is going to scan for the BIOS files, which by default should be this one right here. And the BIOS is required for you to play games on this emulator, and they are copyright protected. Ideally, you should get them by dumping these files from your PS2. So when you have it with you, you're gonna drop it here inside the BIOS folder. It's going to look like something very similar to this. Now back on the installation wizard, you're gonna click here on refresh list and your BIOS should appear here. Now you just have to click on it once and we can proceed here. Click on next. Now we have to select the folder where we want the emulator to scan for games. This can be anywhere on your PC, and you don't necessarily need to make a rip of your PS2 game discs to your PC. The emulator can read the game through your DVD drive, but that's for when the setup is complete. What I like to do here is on the emulator folder, I like creating a new folder here called Games, like this. Now back on the installation, you're gonna click here on Add, and it should open the emulator folder by default. So now I just click on the Games folder once, then click on Select Folder. Now it's gonna give you the option to scan for game files that are inside a folder on the original folder. For example, here in my case, I'm going to choose the Games folder as the original folder, right? But if I were to create a new folder here, something like Japanese games, and if I put games inside this one, the emulator can also find them. That's what this feature is for. So in my case, I'm gonna go ahead and click on yes. And you can also select multiple folders, by the way. It doesn't have to be a single one. You just have to click here on add and keep adding them here until you're finished. And when you're done, click here on next. Now we have to set up the controller. And this emulator has an automatic mapping function, which means that if you have your controller plugged in, it's going to do the configuration for you in just one click. Anything that uses direct input or X input, mainly being the PlayStation and Xbox controllers, or any third-party controller, that you can make it be recognized as PlayStation or Xbox controllers. You can also use your keyboard and mouse as well. So if you don't have your controller plugged in right now, go ahead and do that. And when it's on, click here on automatic mapping and it should appear right here. In my case, I'm using a Xbox controller, so it's showing up as SDL0X input. I'm just gonna click on this one and it's pretty much configured already. There is also a more detailed configuration inside the emulator under this setting, so you don't have to do this right now. It can be done later. When you're done, click here on next and we're done with the setup installation here. Click on finish. Now with this out of the way, I want you to go to the folder where you dropped all the files. And as you probably have guessed already, we're gonna be dropping the game files here on the games folder that we created. The most common format for this emulator is having the games right here as a .iso. And ideally, to get them, you should dump your copy of your game into your PC. So with the files in place, you're gonna go back to the emulator. If you had it open while dropping the files, you're gonna click here on Scan for new games, and they will appear here. You can also close the emulator and restart. They will also show up as well. Now we're gonna tweak the emulator settings for the best graphics and performance, and the settings are pretty much the same for both games, but there is one section that we have to go into each game individually to enable them, but that's a little bit later. Now we're gonna do the general settings. So you're gonna click here on settings and first click here on BIOS. This window will show up, and right here on BIOS, make sure that the fast boot option is enabled here. This will skip the PlayStation 2 intro screen and go straight into the game. So we're gonna be saving time by using this one, but you can also disable if you wanna see that every time you start the game, but there is no harm in activating this option here. It's not going to introduce any bugs or anything like that. Next, click here on emulation, and under system settings, you're gonna click here on Enable C-DVD Pre-caching. This will massively reduce the loading times of the game, and it is safe to use on both Gran Turismo 3 and 4. And right here on the bottom, there is an option to reduce the input lag of the emulator. By default, it's set to 2 frames, but if you click here on Optimal Frame Pacing, it's going to reduce that to 0 frames. And the difference is quite noticeable in game, but do note that this option will require more of your CPU and GPU. So if you have slowdowns or frame dropping while playing the game, come back here and deactivate this option. Now click on the graphics tab, and right here on the top where it says renderer, the best renderer for this emulator is this one here, Vulkan. If you have it enabled here, click on that, but if your GPU is outdated, it's not going to show up. If that's the case for you, the second best renders in my opinion are Direct3D 11 or 12. Pretty much as soon as you click on it, you're gonna see very little loading times, in my opinion. Here on adapter, you wanna click on it and select your main GPU if you have a multiple GPU setup, that is. Right here on display, the first option, aspect ratio, you're gonna change this one to widescreen 16:9. Both games do support widescreen display, but we are also going to be using the custom patches of this emulator that will unlock the aspect ratio even on 4:3 so that it fits a monitor with 16:9. We're gonna do that after we are done here. So now click here on rendering, and there's an option here to increase the internal resolution of this emulator. By doing so, it will make the game look much better, but it's gonna demand more of your computer. So I would recommend that you start with something like 1.5 resolution and just keep increasing this one until the image is looking good and until, of course, your computer can handle that. Now here on anisotropic filtering, change this one to 16x. This will make the game look much better and it has minimal impact on performance. Also on blending accuracy, change this one to high. This is required for both games to render things correctly in game, but it uses a bit more of your CPU. So if you notice that the usage is a little too high, come back here and change this back to basic. And with that, we are done here, so go ahead and click on close. But now we're gonna do the individual configurations for each game, like I said. And to do that, you're gonna right-click the game, starting with Gran Turismo 3, and then select here, Properties. This window will show up, which is very similar to the one that we were before. In fact, it's pretty much the same, but we now have the Patches option here enabled. And this is where we're gonna enable the enhancements I talked about before. For Gran Turismo 3, we have one that deactivates the interlacing. We can adjust the trigger sensitivity and also change the metric units from miles to kilometers per hour. So now we're gonna do the same for Gran Turismo 4. So right-click the game, select Properties, and GT4 has way more patches available here. So the good ones are, of course, widescreen, adjust the trigger sensitivity. You can also import the Gran Turismo 3 chase camera and the GT5 as well, if that's what you want to do. There's a couple here to give us a analog HUD or digital for all the camera views, reduce vibration as well, and disable the dynamic race text. We have the description what they do right here on the bottom. This patch to auto boot the game in 480p is a really good one to use, especially if you are upscaling the resolution of the game. Because if you upscale without it, the image won't look that good because it's from a 480i resolution. So this one is a must to use right here. When you're done, click on close and we're ready to go. And to start the game, you just have to double click on it. I'm gonna start with GT4 here. Because we activated the fast boot and C-DVD thing, the game loads much faster now. That's it for the PS2 games. Now let's move over to the PSP. We're gonna start by grabbing the best PSP emulator for PC. The link will be on the description and right here on the main page. Click here on download, and this tutorial is for Windows, so this is what I'm gonna use here. And I would recommend just getting the zip file portable version because it has all the files needed in one folder, good to go. So go ahead and click on this one and download it to your PC. It will come as a zipped file, so first we have to extract this one using either WinRAR or 7-zip. I'm just gonna click here on extract here, and you can go ahead and delete the original zip file. We're not gonna need this anymore. And to start it, you just have to double click here on PPSSPP, Windows 64, and it will start. The first step is selecting the folder where you want the emulator to scan for new games. And for that, you're gonna click here on Browse and just select the folder where your games will be. In my case, I'm just gonna use the main PPSSPP folder like this, and it will do the change for me. And since I selected the main PSP folder for that, this is where I'm gonna be dropping the game file right here. And the most common and one of the best formats for this emulator is having the game as a .iso. The emulator will play that just fine, and ideally to get this, you should dump your copy of your game into your PC, and with the game file in place, you're gonna go back to the emulator, and you're simply just gonna click here on this little arrow, and it's going to scan the folder, and the game will appear here. But first we have to configure the emulator, of course, and to do that, just click here on Settings. It will bring these options right here, and the first one under Graphics, here where it says Backend, you're gonna click on this one, and if it's available for you, go ahead and select Vulkan here. This is the best video render for this emulator, but if your GPU is outdated and Vulkan doesn't show up, you're gonna select Direct3D 11. This is also a pretty good one, but Vulkan is the best one in my opinion. And if you select it, you're gonna have to restart the emulator to make the changes. Go ahead and do that, and it will take us back here. Now, right on the bottom, rendering resolution, you can increase the resolution where the emulator is going to start a game. You can go all the way to 10x PSP if your GPU can support that. Even if you don't have a 4K monitor, the emulator will render the game at 4K, but it's going to be fit to the resolution that you have, so the image will look really good. But it will use a lot more of your GPU, so if you have frame drops, come back here and just decrease the resolution. I'm just gonna select 4x 1080p. The games look really good on this one. Right here, still on rendering, change the anti-aliasing here to 8x. Now let's scroll down here a bottom, and on the texture scaling section, you can change the upscale type here. I think XBRZ looks good enough, but some people don't like it. So the bicubic option is also really good. I also like playing games with this one, and I think on Gran Turismo, this one looks really good as well. And if you change this one, you can also increase the upscale level as well. And I think anything beyond 3x is a little too much. It alters the image quite a lot, and I don't really like it how it looks, in my opinion, that is of course. So for this one, I would just recommend sticking to 2x here. Now here on texture filtering, you can change the anisotropic filtering to 16x if that's not selected already. This one will make the game look much better, and it has minimal impact on performance. And by changing this one, also change the texture filtering here to auto max quality. And that's pretty much it for the graphics. Now let's configure the controller by clicking here on controls and then click on control mapping. And this emulator has a automatic mapping function. So if you don't have your controller plugged in, the controller you're gonna use, go ahead and do that right now. And when you do that, you're gonna click here on auto configure. By doing so, it's going to list the devices that are available for the automatic mapping. In my case, I'm using a Xbox controller, so it already shows up in here. And if you just click on it, it will do all the configuration for me in just one click. And now we're pretty much ready here, so just click on back to go to the menu, back again, and you're ready to start the game. And you simply just have to click here on the game icon, in this case of Gran Turismo, and the game will start as it should. The first step is grabbing the emulator itself, and it's available here on this website. I'll put the link of it on the description of this video. And right here on the main page, you just want to click here on the download button. And this tutorial is for Windows 10 and 11, but RPCS3 is also available for Linux and Mac OS. So go ahead and click here on the download button. It will come as a zipped file, so you're gonna have to extract it, and you can use either WinRAR or 7-zip for that. I would personally recommend using 7-zip. I'll put the link of that on the description of the video as well. And right here on this file, you just have to click on it with the right button, select it, WinRAR or 7-zip, and then click on extract here. It will generate all of these files. You can go ahead and delete the original zip file. We're not gonna need this anymore. And to start the installation, you just have to double click here on rpcs3.exe, and this window will show up. And there are a few settings here. I would not recommend using the dark theme yet. We can configure this later. And just go ahead and click here on do not show again. And I have read the quick start guide, so we can click on continue. So go ahead and click here, and just like that, the emulator will appear here. The first thing we have to do here is install the PS3 firmware, and we can get that on the official PlayStation website. This is the place right here. I'll also put the link on the description of this video. And right here, you want to scroll down a little bit to this page and go to where it says how to update PS3 system software. And you're going to click here on update using a computer. It will unlock this next section, and right here you just have to click on download PS3 update to get the firmware. But if the download doesn't start when you click here, then you have to click on this button with the right button on your mouse, and then you're gonna click on copy link address, and you're gonna paste the link on your browser, and then you're gonna press enter, and the download should start that way. So go ahead and download the firmware. I dropped the firmware file on the same location as the emulator itself. It is this file right here, ps3update.pup. Now you want to open the emulator once again, and you're gonna click here on file and then click on install firmware. It should open the emulator folder by default, so now you just have to double click on PS3 update to install the firmware. In case this file is not showing up here, then you have to come here to the bottom right side of the screen and then click on PS3 update file, and then you're gonna select all files. This way it's going to list everything on this folder, including the firmware file. So go ahead and double click on that and it will install the firmware. This shouldn't take long right here. When this window show up, click on OK, then just wait until this is finished. Now with this out of the way, I want you to go to the folder where you dropped all the emulator files here, and you're gonna notice this folder here called games. This folder is already there with you. You don't have to create it, and this is where you're gonna be dropping the game files. One of the best formats on RPCS3 is having the game files inside a folder like this, and inside you have the actual game files that are going to look very similar to this one. And to get them, ideally, you should dump your copy of your game into your PC. So now, with the files in place, you're gonna go back to the emulator. You're gonna click here on File, and then Add Games. It should open the emulator folder by default, so now you're gonna click here on the Games folder, and then click here on Select Folder, and just like that, the games will appear here. You can also shut down the emulator and reopen. If the game files are inside the games folder and on a write format, the emulator will list them here. Both games are on the vanilla format here. We don't have the patches yet. And there is an easy way to update your games on RPCS3. Using this tool right here, Rusty PSN. The link will be on the description as well. And right here, you want to click on whatever it is, the latest version available. And under assets, the file you have to download is this one here, Rusty PSN Windows.zip. This is the one you're gonna need. So go ahead and click on this one to download to your computer. I downloaded the file to the same RPCS3 folder we have been using. This is a zip file, so we're gonna have to extract this with either WinRAR or 7-zip. Inside this, we only have a single file, the rustypsn.exe. So I'm gonna drag this file from the zip folder like this. And before we start Rusty PSN, I'm gonna create a new folder here on RPCS3. Right click on it, select new folder. I'm gonna call it updates, because this is where I'm gonna be downloading all the updates I'm gonna get. So now you're gonna double click on Rusty PSN, gonna open as such, and you're gonna click here on this little gear, and now we can change the download location of the updates. I'm gonna use that one folder that I just created, so click here on pick folder, navigate to the RPCS3 folder, and then I just have to click on updates once, then click on select folder like this. Now just click on save settings. Now, to get the patches, we're gonna need the game's serial code, and this is something that we can get on the emulator itself. It is this code right here, and to copy that, you're gonna right-click the game. I'm gonna start with Gran Turismo 5, then right here on the bottom, click on Copy Info, and then Copy Serial. Now go back to Rusty PSN, and you're simply gonna paste the code right here, and then click on Search for Updates. Now we have all the updates listed here. Click on this little arrow so you can see each one of them. And on Gran Turismo 5, however, if you update this game beyond version 2.0, it will become much more demanding on your CPU. And as such, you'll lose performance. If you have a CPU with something like 8 cores and 16 threads, you can still play the game at around 50 FPS or something. But anything below that, I think the performance hit will be quite big. So just to be sure, you can update and download all of these patches here only up to version 2.0. So that's what I'm gonna do here. Start at 1.05, all the way here, click on each one of them. Only up to 1.13, like this. Now that it's finished, we're gonna do the same for GT6. But before that, make sure you click here on Clear Results to get rid of that. Now go back to the emulator, right click on Gran Turismo 6, copy info, and then copy serial. Go back to Rusty, paste the code here, and search for updates, and there you go. And Gran Turismo 6 not only has the same issue as 5 with the game become more demanding on your CPU if you update it too much, but it's actually worse here. Not only the game will become much more heavy to run, but it's also going to introduce a lot of graphical issues. Mostly a screen tearing and also the reflections being broken on the cars and on the tracks themselves. And those issues will happen even if you have a really good CPU. This is a problem with the emulator and with the game right now. And to get around that, you should only update the game to version 1.05 right here. So you're gonna download all the patches before that, 1.02, 03, 04, and 05, just to keep things better. Now, when you're done downloading, you can go ahead and close Rusty PSN. And to install then, right here on the emulator, you're gonna click here on File and then Install Packages. It should open the emulator folder by default, so in my case, I'm gonna double click on the updates file I created before. And I'm gonna start with Gran Turismo 5. It's this folder right here with the serial code. And inside all the updates. You can just select everything with your mouse. Just click and hold with the left button. Make sure you select them from the top to below so they are listed correctly. Now click here on Open. Then it's gonna list all the updates here. Make sure that they are in order, by the way, otherwise you're gonna get a very common error that most people get. And then click here on Install. Wait for it to finish and the game will be updated. There you go, GT5 is patched. Now we're gonna do the same for 6. File, Install Packages. Go to the GT6 Updates folder, this one right here. Then select everything, click on Open, and there you go. All the updates are in order. We're good to go. Click on Install. Now it's ready. Click on OK. Now we're going to tweak the emulator settings to give us the best performance in both GT5 and 6. Before anything else, we have to enable the debug configuration of this emulator. And to do that, first of all, right here where it says config, you're gonna click on this one once. This window is gonna open right here, and then you can go ahead and close this down. Now, you're gonna shut down the emulator, make sure that it's closed. And right here on the emulator folder, you're gonna look for this folder here called GUI configs. Double click on this one, and inside here, you should have this file with you, current settings. You should be able to open this with the default notepad from Windows or your favorite notepad software that you have on your computer. In case it does not open when you double click on it, then you're gonna have to click with the right button, and then you're gonna click here on Open With, and then you're gonna select Notepad. If Notepad doesn't show up in here, click here on Choose Another App and select it from here. Now, double click on Current Settings. This window here will show up, and the setting we have to change is right here on the top where it says Meta. It's this one here, Show Debug Tab equals False. You're going to erase this false right here, get rid of that, and then you're gonna write True. That's all you gotta do here. Make sure you save your changes by clicking here on File and then Save, or you can press Ctrl S on your keyboard, and there you go. Now, go back to the emulator folder, double click on the executable like this, and now we're back here. Now we can tweak the actual settings. I'm gonna start with Gran Turismo 5. So right click on the game, and then select here Create Custom Configuration. This window will show up, and right here on the CPU tab, the first option is this one here, SPU block size. Change this one from safe to mega. There's also a issue that could happen with you in this game, that the game crashes when you buy a used car. If that's happening to you frequently, we can fix that by changing the SPU decoder right here to Recompiler ASMJIT. But you should only change this one if this issue is happening a lot and it's bothering you, because this will hinder the performance of the game a little bit. You can change this option here and just buy the card you want, and then you save the game. You can come back here and then switch back to Recompiler LLVM. And another issue is the audio cutting out in gameplay. If that's happening a lot, you can fix that by changing the SPU XFloat accuracy here from approximate to accurate. But again, this will affect the performance of the game too. So only change this one if this is really happening and you want to get fix of that. Otherwise, keep this one on approximate XFloat. This is the best one. Now let's switch over to the GPU tab right here. And on the first option, renderer, make sure that you have Vulkan selected here. This is the best renderer for this emulator. But if this doesn't show up for you, that means your GPU does not support it. In this case, you're gonna have to play the game using OpenGL, in which the game works, but the performance will be much worse. And in some cases, the game doesn't even render properly. You only get a black screen whenever you start the game. So OpenGL is only if you want to play the game and you don't have Vulkan. Otherwise, make sure you select it here. A little below here, we have these options. The first one is anisotropic filter. You can change this one from auto to 16x. This will make the game look much better, and it has minimal impact on performance. Now, right here on the resolution settings, this game has a funny thing going on. The game is less demanding on your GPU if you play this at 1080p resolution instead of the default 720p. But if you play this at 1080p, it's going to introduce a white dots issue in-game. They don't appear on the races themselves, only at the menus and the replay and also the pre-race screen as well. But some people do not have this white dots issue, and you could be one of them. Right now, it's a matter of luck because there's no explanation on why this is happening. So this is gonna be up to you. If you don't mind the white dots, keep this one at 1080p, or you can just stick it to the default 720p. You can also increase the resolution scale right here to go all the way to 4K if your GPU can support that is, but I would not recommend changing the scale right here because it will make the game crash more often. Now let's go to the Advanced tab right here. And on this page, you're gonna enable the Accurate RSX Reservation Access and change the RSX FIFO accuracy from fast to atomic. Now click on the Debug tab that we enabled before, and right here you just have to enable the Disable Z-Code Occlusion Queries. You can also go here to the Emulator section, and you can disable the Shroll Trophy pop-ups, PPU compilation hint, and shader compilation. These will disable the notifications in-game, and they can be annoying because they happen quite so often, especially the PPU compilation. So if you don't want any distractions, this is how you disable them. And this is it for Gran Turismo 5, so click on Apply and then Save Custom Configuration. Now we're going to tweak Gran Turismo 6. So once again, right-click on the game and then select Create Custom Configuration. On this window, in the CPU tab, change the SPU block size from Safe to Mega. Now go to the GPU tab, make sure that the render is set to Vulkan, but if your GPU is outdated, you're only gonna have OpenGL, in which the performance is worse, right, like I explained. So keeping this one at Vulkan. You can change the anisotropic filter from auto to 16x, minimal impact on performance. And also do not change the anti-aliasing, by the way, keep this one at auto. And also every other configuration here. And this game does not have the white dot issues here. But if you're going to increase the resolution, keep the default at 720p and use the slider here under resolution scale. But of course, this will demand a lot more of your GPU, and this game is already demanding enough, so it's probably a good idea to just keep it at 100% here. And also, if you updated your game beyond version 1.05, it is recommended that you click here on Write Color Buffers, because this will help reduce the graphical issues that this game has, but only if you updated beyond that. Now moving on, go to the Advanced tab. Click here to enable Accurate RSX Reservation. If you updated the game beyond version 1.05, you also have to click here on Read Color Buffers. But if you don't click on this one, and then change the RSX FIFO accuracy to Atomic. Now go to the Debug tab right here, and you're going to enable the Disable Z-Code Occlusion Queries, and also the Force CPU Bleed Emulation. And just like GT5, you can come in here on the emulator tab and disable the trophy pop-ups, PPU compilation, and shader compilation to get rid of any notifications you're gonna get in-game. That's it for GT6, so go ahead and click on apply, and then save. Now we're going to configure your controller. So go ahead and click here on pads, and this emulator has a automatic mapping function. So if you don't have your controller plugged in, the one you're going to use in-game, go ahead and do that right now. And to configure it, you're just gonna click here on X input under handlers, and it's going to list all the devices available on this emulator. In my case, I'm using a Xbox controller. So if I click here on X input, it's going to do the configuration for me already. You can also play both games with a keyboard as well. If that's what you want to do, this emulator also supports that. And finally, when you're done tweaking things here, click here on save, and we are finally ready to start the games. I'm gonna start with Gran Turismo 5 right here. So just double click on the game. I'm going to ask if you want to install the update. Click on no. Not sure why it shows up. And when you start both games on the first time, it's going to compile these PPU modules right here. And this can take a little while depending on how strong your CPU is, especially on Gran Turismo 6. That one can take several minutes before it's finished, but you only have to do this one time. I have many other tutorial videos like this on the channel, and if you want to directly support me with a donation, the link will be on the description of this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and also leave a like on this video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.